Hello, Jen. Welcome to the Women Waken podcast.
Hi, Whitney.
Hi. It's so good to finally have you on the show.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I'm
Yes.
loving your other podcast. I really enjoy listening to them. So thanks for inviting me to join the conversation too.
Thank you so much. Well, I would love for the show to be a resource more and more for women who are looking to really build their confidence, to feel more comfortable and connected with their bodies, to build a healthy relationship with their bodies, and to really start to be able to trust more of their own guidance and intuition about their bodies, their relationships, their emotions, their experiences, all of that. And so, Jen, you are a doctorate of physical therapy.
Yes.
So you're a physical therapist and you have a very unique practice, which we'll get into that too, because we're both nomadic, gypsy, entrepreneurial women. Women on the road.
It's an exciting lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's not conventional though, for sure.
No, and that's what I love about it. So, Jen, what I would love for us to focus on today is, being a physical therapist, you learn about every single muscle and bone and connecting tissue and all of that in the body. So you really understand what's going on. And I think another really important thing for women is to be educated about their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And many of us aren't. We have no idea what's going on where we're having a certain type of pain or a certain difficulty with a certain exercise or activity. And my show also, the audience is usually about between like 30, 40s, people in their 50s even. And that's kind of around the time where, when we were in our 20s, we could pretty much get away with it and sort of do whatever we wanted and not feel, but you get into your 30s and stuff and 40s and you're like, oh, what is this new feeling?
Life catches up with you as we get a little older.
Yes. Yes. So to start, Jen, maybe I would love for you to share a little bit about your focus, about your unique work, and then we can kind of lead into what you've learned about women and their relationship with their bodies, body image, and how they can gain greater awareness of what's going on with their bodies. Yeah.
My business, I have worked in traditional clinics. I've worked in hospitals. I've done home health. And then I decided in 2014 that I really wanted to approach healthcare so that I could deliver to the level of my education. When we're in a clinical setting, especially, I'll say, if you're working in a clinic that is dependent on reimbursement from insurance, it changes the way you practice. So because you're reliant on the reimbursements for how the business is going to run, it changes decision making in what treatments you're going to provide. You have to see a lot more patients just to make sure you're making a lot of money, because reimbursements are, it's clear that the profession is undervalued, based on what insurance companies will reimburse for. Yeah. So I started my own company. I am a cash practice, which means I'm out of network for everybody. Yeah. I do provide super bills so that my patients can submit those to their insurance companies and they'll get paid back what the insurance company would have paid me. But what that does is the patient is going to know upfront what they're going to be paying for that session. There's no surprise fees or anything. I know how much I'm going to get, and then I prefer not to give a time limit. So we're going to work until the job is done. I'm going to do whatever treatments are necessary until the job is done. And I'm not, watching the clock. I'm not waiting for the next person to come in. There's no rush. It's a very relaxed atmosphere. And so I started doing concierge care in 2014 and was going into people's homes. I would go to gyms with them. I would go hiking with them. I went surfing with one person. So wherever it was that they needed help to address whatever the mobility issue was, I was there for them. Mm-hmm. And then when the pandemic hit, changed gears a little bit, and I decided that the safest option was to pull all of my my clinical care online. So I shifted over to telehealth. I have a number of patients who were very clinically vulnerable and I didn't want to put them at risk. And then after transitioning to telehealth, found that outcomes were pretty good. It's not the best solution for every patient. So when somebody contacts me and I think, you know what, I think you really need to have the hands-on care and I'm not going to be there to provide it, I refer them to somebody else. But for most people, it's very convenient. I can see in their homes, I can see their day-to-day activities, their lifestyle, how they bend over to pet their dog or pick up their kid or, reach for things off the shelf in their natural environment, which is how I prefer it. And so with the business, I do physical therapy, but another big thing that I do is lifestyle coaching, or I have what I call the lifestyle renewal program. And that is an intensive program for people who maybe have some medical difficulties, maybe they have a disability, maybe they just haven't been, their bodies are not where they want them to be health wise, but they don't have acute injury or something that they need to go through regular rehab with. And so I look at nutrition, I look at the ergonomics of their workspace, I look at their positions for sleeping, look at their footwear. So I'm addressing the whole body issue and not just the one area of complaint, and try to get people on a lifestyle program that is going to suit their needs.
Mhm.
And it's always an ongoing process, right? So if you start off with some kind of a goal in mind, maybe we get a bunch of exercises together and I put together a nutrition plan, but it's always better to do little nudges rather than try to like dive into the deep end or think of it like a whole body makeover process. Because with little nudges, little tiny lifestyle changes, little tweaks here and there, you're more likely to be successful with it in the long run than trying to change a whole bunch all at once. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my approach to my physical therapy and with this lifestyle renewal program is I'm not just looking at the one thing that somebody's complaining about, but I want to give my patients and my clients the tools that they need so that they can have an enduring change and they're empowered to take care of themselves and not keep coming back into the medical system for care over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my approach.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing. And then, Jen, how did you get into this work? What made you inspired to do that? Is it because you were interested in the connection between how people can be more consistently healthy and not have to end up with these chronic health conditions? Because I feel like that's a lot of what PT can do, is to early on kind of catch what's the, continued behaviors that are causing repercussions in the body and really adjust that, discontinue that so that they have more fluidity, better functioning. But what was it that did it for you?
Absolutely. Well, so for me, I mean, it was a very personal story, but I didn't know it at the time. I was diagnosed with arthritis when I was about 20 years old. And and it was osteoarthritis, not rheumatoid or juvenile arthritis. So, usually you would see that appearing in somebody who is maybe in middle age or older.
Yeah.
And it started off with my knee, and then it was my other knee, and then my feet, and then my shoulder, and then my spine. And like I've got it in a lot of places. So I was feeling very very debilitated. I had been a dancer when I was in college. I was dancing like 40 hours a week with different clubs and classes and companies. And then when the arthritis started bothering my knees, then I had to really pull back, or I felt like I had to really pull back. And so I stopped dancing. After graduating, I really didn't do a lot of physical activity, very much at all. The problem just kept getting worse and worse. And I went to PT school because I was inspired. I ended up working with people with disabilities. I really loved that work. I wanted to continue that. And once I was in PT school and I was learning more about the joints and about arthritis and about treatments, I got so furious that I was not told to pursue physical therapy earlier or as a patient. Instead, doctors were giving me pills and they said, oh yeah, take this, and then just don't move too much. And it turns out that's not at all the right path, or at least I believe, because you're masking the symptoms and you're not addressing the root source of the problem. And so for me, the root source of my problem was from all of the dancing. I'd become really flexible, really hypermobile. My joints weren't moving exactly how they were supposed to. And so I got really advanced wear and tear at an early age. And now that I'm on the other side of the clinical table, I'm a physical therapist, I really want people to learn how that they can control their bodies better. And that preventative part of it is so overlooked in our modern healthcare system. Right now, the healthcare system is set up, a problem occurs, then we react to it. We're going to give you medicines to take care of the symptoms, maybe some surgeries, as opposed to addressing the issue in childhood and early adulthood with screening, with preventative care, kind of finding out, oh, these are kind of the problem areas that you are susceptible to. Let's teach you how to move better. Let's teach you about ergonomics. Let's, get you out of, the bad footwear. let's put away those high heels and like find some other options that are going to serve you better, because humans are living now longer than they ever have before. And we need to take care of these bodies so that we can enjoy our life all the way to the end and not feel debilitated and have to keep pulling back and back because of, joint issues, pain, or other chronic medical conditions, which conservative care like physical therapy can really, really help to prevent, like heart disease, pulmonary problems, diabetes, those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. And I'm such a proponent of preventative work and action, because just as you said, that's not the medical model we have. And it really doesn't serve the people. It serves companies, it serves corporations to not have preventative care, because then people will increase the severity of their conditions and their illness and need more and more treatment, which brings the money in. There's not money in prevention. So, however, we can't go on like this. We have so many people who live with chronic illness and chronic pain. And a lot of it is because they don't know, like you were talking about ergonomics and the best way to conduct our bodies and move our bodies. People don't know. And it results in these really, impactful problems. So I think that's great. So what are some things that people can be aware of that you share with your client? Like let's say someone comes in and they say, I can't really go for long walks anymore. I'm having a lot of pain in my knees or something like that. And they say, and maybe they're still young, right? In their 30s. And it's like, what can I do now? Like, what can I be aware of that's impacting this? And what do you recommend to people?
Well, the very first place that I start with a new patient is to look at their posture and alignment. And I often, in just one visit or within one visit, I assess their alignment, and then I'll just kind of move their shoulder, or have them like lift their spine, or move, you just hold themselves in a little bit of a different position, in a corrected position. And I'll have them kind of feel that. And I'll say, okay, now shake it out and reset and go right back into it. And they're usually able to feel how to get into that corrected position. Takes a little bit of effort, because your body's always finding the path of least resistance. You're always trying to find what is going to require the least amount of energy. So, you slouch a little bit, or you kind of post up on one hip a little bit when you're standing. But when you're corrected, you are in an alignment where the body is going to function at its best. All the nerves, all the organs, you're going to get deeper breaths. Everything's just going to function well when you are in a good alignment. And so that's usually my starting point. And then throughout the day, people will just, I encourage my patients to become aware of what they're doing when they're out of that. And as soon as you feel, oh, I'm slouched over the kitchen sink while I'm washing dishes. Oh, well, let's lengthen up. And the more time, or my personal philosophy is the more time I'm spending in the good positions is less time in the bad positions. I'm going to get less of that bad wear and tear. And for my arthritic body, that has been really, really a game changer. So after we kind of re-educate the body, how are you supposed to be standing? How are you supposed to be sitting? What is the right alignment? From there, then we go into some targeted exercises. I find the weak muscle groups or the stiff or tight areas, and kind of give some corrections with stretches or exercises. And then I really, really want everybody to learn the value of some good footwear. So I could probably, talk a long time with you about cute shoes versus, what's going to really serve you well.
Yeah.
So, and not just the footwear is part of it, but any surface that gravity is going to be loading your body into. So gravity is loading your foot into the shoe and the whole body weight is on top of that. Or are you in a good chair? I have had a patient who we found out that her couch was what was driving her back pain.
Wow. Well, and I would
Yes.
imagine office chairs too, like where people are sitting. I mean, because we know the effects of sedentary lifestyles where people are in a job or on the computer all day and they're sitting. It's, it's really not great for our bodies.
Yeah. The phrase is sitting is the new smoking.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
want to be up and moving around often. And for a lot of people, unfortunately, the way their job is structured is you are sitting in front of a screen in one position for hours on end, trying to just meet those productivity goals, whatever they are. And workplaces haven't really built in the ability to get up and move around and change position and maybe go for a walk in the middle of the day. So our societal structure is very different from how our bodies have been designed to thrive. And
in so many ways, in
hopefully
basically every way.
we'll marry that at some point, but right now we're kind of not quite there.
Yeah, we're not there. I think though in the last 10 years, there's been more of an emphasis on that need for get up and move every half hour, every hour, as many times as you can throughout the day. Because just like you said, it's once we realize how damaging something is, like as you said, smoking a pack a day, not healthy for you. Sitting the entire day, detrimental to your health. So incorporating that sort of, okay, I need to, even if I can't go do a full workout, I can at least go walk around the block, walk up the stairwell. I remember when I used to work in sales and tech companies, I'd go out to the stairwell and there'd always be a couple of us like doing our stairs just to get some movement, and so I think there is more of that and more of an awareness of I need to move my body. Which also leads me, Jen, to another part of your work is, I work a lot with women with body image issues and eating disorders, and usually eating disorders go hand in hand with abusing exercise as a means of, calorie restriction. And that can also, when we push our bodies to limits that we're not meant for, our bodies will respond. Our bodies are not indestructible. They will be affected. So it's kind of a loaded question, but and it doesn't even have to be disorder related, but I feel like a lot of people also exercise can be an addiction, but it can also be like your passion. So I feel like people tend to push their bodies that maybe isn't the way that their specific body is meant to be pushed, if that makes sense. Like extreme sports or activities, like let's say people who really want to run a marathon or they love, skiing or long distance running, whatever it is. Sometimes I think people need to realize like maybe this doesn't work for me because it's wearing down my body and I feel like it's affecting me. So it can be in the disordered realm of, I need to work out 2 hours a day and, do whatever. And with this few calories, and then you see the results, but also just like wanting to be able to do certain things and I think it all comes down to listening to your body, right? When you are on a mission for something, you can kind of tune out your body and be like, just keep pushing and be like, whatever, I'm not going to listen to this pain. I'm not going to listen to this, difficulty, this discomfort. because it's an inconvenience, right?
Mhm. Yeah, there's a lot there.
I know. Yeah.
So I to go back to the thought of the eating disorder and the exercise obsession.
Yeah.
um I see that a lot in not just American society, but it is a very strong conditioning here, for women to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And our society really values long, lean, skinny women. Luckily, now there's more emphasis on strong women, but we don't want to be really
Yeah.
bulky with our muscles. And so women will do all of these crazy things, not just women, I should say, but people will do a lot of crazy things with restricting their diet, or eating really is like certain things that they think are going to make them end up looking a certain way.
Yeah.
And I I mean, I've been in that too. I'm really grateful now that I have found a place in my life where instead of restricting food or selecting foods, I am now selecting nutrition. Whereas before it would be, oh, I need to pare down as much as I can in my meal. Now I'm adding seeds and nuts to my salads, and I'm adding more herbs, and I'm adding all of these other things where I can derive micronutrients. I'm selecting the more colorful foods, bring on all of the vegetable sides that I can get,
Yeah.
and not trying to think, oh, well, I only need to have this certain amount of calories in my day. And it's not the calories, it's the quality of the food. And similar with exercise, if you want to think about, oh, I need to exercise a certain way to get my health benefits, for cardiovascular exercise, as an example, if you are doing vigorous exercise a lot, yes, you are going to get really, really good health benefits. But if you do moderate exercise, you're also going to get really good health benefits. You don't have to be busting yourself in the gym. Which to come back to my own personal story, as a person who has a lot of arthritic joints, if I tried so often to start running. Oh, I got to be a runner. Running is so good for your bones, running so good for your muscles, for your heart. And I tried and tried and tried, and I would typically get about 2 weeks in before my body would say that's enough, and I'd have to take a complete rest for weeks to recover because my joints were just too inflamed.
Yeah.
So selecting the right exercise, the right things, just like selecting the right foods, I just select my movements wisely. So instead of running on land, I took up aquatic exercise, and I can run in the water. If I'm maybe like chest deep in a pool, that is a great way for me to build up that cardiovascular endurance. And when you're pushing through the water's pushing back on you, that's also strengthening. So selecting that kind of an exercise. And then eventually, after doing that for a few years, I was able to start getting back on land again. And my big crowning achievement was I did a 5K once. After a lot of training. And for a lot of people, they're like, oh, 5K, that's, I'm doing marathons, I'm a triathlete. But
Yeah.
for me and my body, that was such a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
So if a person does have some limitation with a medical condition, with pain, with joint issues, finding the right thing so that they can keep moving, but also learning where that line is, not to overdo it. Because if you overdo it, you're going to get injured. You're going to need some recovery time. And then you keep playing this back and forth game with exercise and recovery. And that also is not very good for the body.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I just as you said, I think that, the same way that we're trying to move more towards thinking about nutrients in our meals rather than calories and all of that, and think about how am I satiating my body? How am I getting the things that I need for me? The same can be thought of with exercise, is rather than like, how can I push this, to give me what I want as far as like physical look? It's like, how can I let this work for me? How can I move my body in a way that is good and feels good and my body appreciates it and it's not too much? Because I think that a lot of people get into sort of an all or nothing mindset, right? They're like, I'm either going to train for a full marathon or I'm going to not do anything. And, there's more and more, there's studies coming out about the incredible benefits of just walking 20 minutes a day,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and like, we don't have to like push ourselves to, near collapse to get physical benefits, right? Cardiovascular benefits. And then also like, there's a lot to say about going for walks. Like being in nature is also huge for our health and well-being. Getting fresh air, having time in the sun, like all of these things there's so many things to incorporate in our well-being. And I feel like there's only like a few that we really fixate on, which is like pushing and getting like super lean and strong and having all these impressive accomplishments. And those are fine. Like, I'm not saying like people shouldn't like go for the things they want to do, but you got to listen to your body. I think that we've really gotten very detached from our bodies and just wanting to see what we can achieve and do. And our bodies can do a lot. Our bodies are remarkable. And if you train correctly, I think that's probably a thing you also work with as clients is if you want to run this marathon, if you want to climb this mountain, train. What are you doing to get yourself there? What are you doing to make sure that you're taking the steps that you are not going to get injured, and you're going to be aware of where your strengths are, where your challenges are in your body, and set yourself up for success rather than injury.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The oh gosh, you mentioned about being outdoors as a way to be healthy, about not pushing super duper hard and still being healthy. You don't have to be a certain size to be healthy. You can, no matter what you do or what size you are or what your health status is, if you are doing a little bit of movement every day, you're on the right track. We need to just, celebrate things. If you are power vacuuming your house, that's physical activity. If you're gardening, that's physical activity. We don't have to be at a gym. We don't have to be in a Zumba class. Any physical activity is going to be in the right direction for good health. And oh, you made some really good points. I'm trying to think. You said something that reminded me of one of my patients who, she was in her 70s at the time, still going strong, but she was quite a traveler. So she would go on these adventures around the world. She'd been on safari. She goes all over the place. I really admire this woman. And when I met her, she came to me because she wanted to go to Uganda and go up into the mountains to see the mountain gorillas. And she was concerned because her knees were not so good, hip problems, a lot of low back pain. And she wanted to make sure that she had the stamina and she could do it safely. So we started small. She's already kind of hiking around. She lived in the Bay Area, so she's hiking around some trails around there. And I was thinking, okay, we don't have big mountains that we can climb here to practice that, but we do have stairs. So we went to some of the public transit stations, and they had multi-level staircases. So we started training on the stairs, and then we found our way up to steeper hills in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and we start off small. Now, if I had taken her up into the mountains on day one for a hike, it probably wouldn't have gone so well. But working on building up gradually rather than just jumping into the end goal. And I feel like a lot of people, they lose their patience with it, is they want to, oh, I've been doing this for a couple of weeks and I should be better now. But you have to listen to your body. If you push a little too hard, your body will let you know you're going to be sore for a little while after workout or some activity, and you got to just back it down a little bit for the next time. Not to say we need to back off completely, but just a little bit less. And
Yeah.
she was so successful with this mountain gorilla trip. She needed a little help here and there because it was muddy,
Aw.
but she had a great time, was able to do what she wanted to do because she had the patience to put in the time and build herself up. Another example that I'm thinking of is a doctor was giving suggestions to a patient of mine who was quite a bit over the target weight, I would say, had diabetes, hadn't been exercising very much, and this person's doctor said, you need to go out and take a 20-minute walk every day. And this person was in no condition to take a 20-minute walk. So we started with 4 minutes, 6 minutes, built up from there, allowing rest breaks, and then walk a little bit more, break up that 20 minutes throughout the day. But feeling like, oh, the walking program says I need that 20 minutes, need to go out and do it. If your body is saying that's not a good fit for you, the answer is not to stop. The answer is just to modify your approach and gradually build into it until you have the capacity to do the things you want to do. And I think if people take that approach with anything, whether it's walking 20 minutes or running a marathon, you're going to be able to accomplish the task if you allow your body to train into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's so wonderful. What great success stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jen, also you lead a lot of groups. Well, you do a lot of wonderful things. There's a few things I want to mention. One is the groups, but also a lot of the stuff we're talking about, you do a lot of videos. You have a YouTube channel, which I hope you'll start expanding, doing more of, because what I feel like people could use is even like a quick 10-minute video of like posture or like, different exercises you can do for this problem or this joint issue or this or that. So that's just one thing to note, that you do have that available to people who are kind of, if they're listening to this and they're wondering, well, how could I learn like a better exercise for my body type, for my, focus, whatever it is. But you also do groups. And I think that there's something to say when because social connection is another big part of health, right? And it also can be very encouraging and create a sense of community. And ultimately, our health is about community and connection, right? When we used to live more in like villages and communities, we did a lot of things together. We incorporated exercise into our everyday life, right? We would go and work on building houses in our community and paving roads. You know what I mean? Like we did things. And now, like you said, our current lifestyle is not, we don't get the things that we used to get. You know what I mean? We don't get as much human connection. We don't get as much physical activity and engagement each day. So having groups that you are a part of can help that. They can help you to kind of make physical activity not so much about pushing yourself, but just enjoying yourself, coming together with others, focusing on moving the body and strengthening the body.
Absolutely. So my general advice, if people ask me, how do we age well? General advice is 3 things. You need to stay physically active, socially active, and mentally active. And you hit 2 of those points at once, was a social connection. And with the groups that you're talking about, I have an online fitness community. So when I move my business online, I teach fitness classes through Zoom Monday through Thursday. And this group of people, I've had some people come and go from the group, but there's been a core group that started with me in the pandemic and has stayed together. And I hear from them all the time. They're not bashful about sharing that even though we are not together physically, it is a Zoom class, that it is a community, that they feel the social support, If somebody doesn't show up to class, people are texting like, "Hey, you okay?" And when we are in class, I always have a little bit of social time in the beginning of and end of class for us to catch up, see what's going on with each other, and having that network really does a few things. One is it is comforting to the soul, right?
Mhm.
Is to have a support network. And when it comes to exercise in particular, and especially for women, not to say that women can't work out alone or that men can't work out in groups, but women more so than men tend to prefer groups because that creates a sense of connection and accountability.
Mhm.
So when you have this group of friends that are used to being together, you it makes you accountable to show up and do the work and not say, "Oh, I just don't feel like doing that workout today."
Yeah.
Because you've got friends to meet with.
Mhm.
Actually, right now, my mother-in-law is gonna preparing. She's gonna leave this weekend to go on a 7-day hike across the Grand Canyon with her friends. And this is a group of hiking friends that meet at least once a week to go out hiking in the San Gabriel Mountains. And now they're doing like this huge adventure together, which I'm so excited about. But I don't think none of them would have done that on their own. And none probably would not have done it if they were just, oh, some random people are going to get together and go. But this is a community of women that have been together. And now as a group, they're all ready to try something different, step outside the comfort zone, really push themselves. Um, and so with my online community, I get a lot of that feedback from people that it, even though it is a digital interface, that it is just as supportive as when people are together in an exercise class. So that's checking two boxes at once. So that's the socially active and the physically active. um and I'm always welcoming anybody to come and try out that community, and welcome everybody to see if those workouts fit well for their bodies. You did mention the videos. I do have some on YouTube, but if you do join my website, I do have a library of full workouts and other videos with wellness tips and things like you mentioned before, being outside in nature, about forest bathing and the benefits of forest bathing, meditations. I've got a few cooking and nutrition demos that are going to go up on there soon. So a variety of things. But I'll put some more on YouTube too.
Fantastic. So really holistic. You're doing the whole package, the whole circle of, needs and outlets for how we really keep ourselves well, how we really engage all aspects of our body and consider everything that we consume and do with our bodies, right? Because consumption isn't just food, it's also like, what are we putting into, like, what are we doing mentally, and how are we engaging ourselves, right? Because like nature bathing and all of that is like you're consuming beautiful fresh air and environments, right? That's something that we're bringing into our system. That's important. You're doing a breath work exercise or workshop this weekend. It'll be,
Yeah.
when this airs, it'll be in the past, but hopefully you'll do more than one. So that's also talking about how that affects our body. Breath is huge, for regulating our system, for health, for keeping our, respiratory system strong. So important.
Yeah. And yes, the respiratory system, but all aspects of health are related to breath. We
Yeah.
don't exist if we don't breathe. And it's one of the tools that we can use that affects our physical well-being, our mental well-being, mental focus. So there's a lot that we can do with breath. So that's really important topic. That's why I want to make sure I do workshops. I do workshops from time to time on different topics. And then also in my fitness community, every month we have a theme. So again, thinking of that holistically, last fall we had a month just on gratitude.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
and I know you know so well the benefits of if you practice gratitude regularly, it has a profound effect on your overall health, your mental health, and your physical health. So I try to incorporate things that are evidence-based, tools that people can put in their toolbox. You don't have to choose just one thing and like really focus on only diet or only exercise. You have this whole wealth of tools that you can choose from to support you at different times, because there are going to be times when maybe I'm not physically or spiritually in a place where I really want to like buckle down on the exercise, but I can draw in some of these other resources to make sure I stay healthy as well.
Yeah.
Everybody goes through the roller coaster of life, and so we just have to choose what's best for us in the moment.
Yeah. And I think that's why communities based around lifestyle and health is so helpful, because we go through all these different ups and downs and ins and out. You know, maybe one week we're feeling really into, our workout regimen and all that, but then maybe we get hurt and we wonder, how can I change this? What else can I do if I can't? And having people like you or others in a lifestyle community group, you can share about this, right? And they have forums for this, like Facebook groups and such. And I don't know if you have one, but where people can like share, like, hey, this is what happened to me. Like, has anybody been through this? What can I do? All helping each other so we can recognize it's not the end of the world if we can't keep doing the workout routine we've been doing for 2 years. We can adjust, we can change. I feel like there's a time for running, there's a time for yoga, there's a time for dance, there's times for all these different type of exercises. And it's really about listening to what your body wants, but also what it's capable of at that time, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, and you mentioned the support groups that you can get from different places. So there are in-person community support groups. Usually hospital systems have, for different medical diagnoses, they'll have support groups set up. Facebook or other social media. All of those are good tools. I will just say that not every group is equal. So I have had a patient who, joined a pain group, and she's like, man, all they do is sit around and talk about how much pain they're in, versus another group where they might talk about how much can you do? What are you enjoying in life despite having this medical condition?
Yes.
So it's something, if you do find a group, but it isn't quite the right fit for you, there's so many out there, try another one. But those groups are really, really important for people through their recovery process, or if you have a chronic condition, of just kind of like being able to talk to somebody who understands what you're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jen, this has been so helpful and wonderful. Do you have any final tips for us? So, for example, I know that every day I make it a point to get outside, to go walk for at least 20 minutes. Not really for like exercise benefits. I mean, it is for that, but just to move, to get my body moving, to be outside. But I also do push-ups every day. I do at least 50 push-ups. I'm up to 50 now. I do a plank and I do squats, because I feel like as long as I incorporate that each day, I have a good baseline. And then whatever I do on top of that, maybe I do yoga that day, maybe I dance, kickbox, go on a bigger hike. And I feel like that having something you do consistently helps in the long term, as far as like how your body ages, because you're making sure that, because when I was younger, I would have because I struggled with eating disorders and exercise abuse and all that. So I would have periods where I would do like so much working out, and then I would just do nothing because I was so exhausted and I was so burnt out. But I feel like being consistent is key, rather than like these big pushes and then huge, pullbacks.
Yes. Consistency. The mind really likes novelty. The body really likes consistency and routine.
Yeah.
So being consistent, making sure you're doing something you enjoy to do. If you feel like, oh, I can't wait for this to be over, you're probably not doing the right kind of exercise to nurture your spirit and your body. But being consistent, but also making sure that you have a little variability in there to keep pushing yourself. Because if we do the same thing all the time, then our body adapts and it's just going to stay there. And we need to keep seeing, oh, well, what else can I do? Can I add a few more minutes to that workout? Can I walk another quarter mile? So always making sure that you are not every day pushing yourself, but just over time, make sure you change it up a little bit. And then listening to what your body needs, nurturing your body, respecting it when it needs a rest, respecting it when it needs a change from the routine. And whenever you're in doubt, there is a profession of experts here who know exactly how to guide you in a safe way so you don't get hurt, so you can stay at your best for as long as you can through your lifespan. So I encourage everybody to reach out to a doctor of physical therapy to ask them for some advice and some guidance. And I, of course, am always here to help with people. If anybody does need any assistance, I'm at drjenpt.com, drjenpt.com. And so, yeah, I would say always, feel free to ask an expert rather than finding your answers through, YouTube or social media, because there's some great content there. There's also some pretty underinformed content there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Jen, thank you so much again for all this wonderful wisdom and valuable information. I loved having you on the show. I'd love to have you back. We can kind of hone down on some specific topics and offer that to the audience. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Whitney. This has been a lot of fun. And it's always a pleasure to spend time with you.
Always. All right, Jen. Well, Happy New Year. Take care.
Happy New Year. Bye-bye.